Many cultures have stories of trickster deities. These tricksters all seem to share common characteristics. They usually possess some kind of great intellect, or secret knowledge. They break rules, sometimes maliciously, as in the case of Loki, or occasionally Eris, but usually their tricks result in a positive outcome. Tricksters can be cunning, or foolish, or both. Tricksters are nearly always male, but often possess gender or form fluidity.
Loki the trickster god is a Norse god from Asgard who's portrayed to be adopted in modern versions of the story like the Marvel movies, but was actually raised by Odin, who killed Loki's father. He was not adopted in the legend. He is the brother of Thor. He's also a shapeshifter. He's gender fluid. Definitely the trickster, as I said earlier. His main characteristics are the trickster. Often he's malicious and he's very reluctant to help the gods, and he has to be forced to. Very strong self-preservation. He is a coward. He has very many children. One of the only legends that depicts Loki as being fully on the god's side is the wedding of Thor. So the wedding of Thor starts out with the king of the frost giants. His name is Thrym. So he stole Thor's hammer, the Mjolnir, and in exchange for the hammer, the king of the frost giants wants Freya, the goddess of love. So Thor goes to Loki for help, and he asks Loki what he should do to get his hammer back. So Loki has an idea and tells Thor that he should dress up as Freya. So they go through the whole thing of getting him made up and put into Freya's clothing to look like Freya. And as the king of the frost giants hands Thor his hammer, Thor stands up and rips off his veil and everything and starts killing everyone, starting with Br'er.
Loki peeks in for a laugh, watching as Thor is dressed by the Aesir for his wedding to Thrym, king of the frost giants. On Thor's right, Freya hangs her famous necklace of starry jewels about his neck. Thor's mother, seen here on Thor's left, hangs a collection of keys about his waist, which was customary for brides to wear at Norse weddings. Thor's might is portrayed by his muscular arm, not yet hidden beneath Freya's fairest scarlet robe. Ah, What a Lovely Maid It is a work of Elmer Boyd Smith from 1902. Smith was a Canadian-born artist who grew up in Boston. He studied art in France. Much of Smith's work was inspired by Norse mythology.
Loki's malicious ways finally catch up to him in the story of Balder. So Balder had a very prophetic dream about his death. So his mother promised for everything in the world not to hurt him, except for mistletoe, because she deemed that too small and insignificant. So one day, all of the gods would play their new favorite game of throw things at Balder because nothing could hurt him. And Loki shows up and decides he wants to find out what the small and insignificant thing is to try to kill Balder. So he finds out that it's mistletoe, and he shapes it into a spear and hands it to Balder's blind brother, Hoder, and he aims it for him and ends up killing Balder.
Balder meets his end in the midst of the Aesir. Odin and Thor, centrally seated, are outraged as goddesses are weakened with sadness from the great loss of Balder. An amused Loki looks on as Hoder takes down the great Balder with a spear of mistletoe. The image is dark. The brightly colored robes of gods and goddesses are suppressed under the deep, sad shadow of cloud above. This oil-on-canvas painting, Death of Balder, is the work of Danish artist Christopher William Eckersberg and now resides in Statens Museum for Kunst, Copenhagen.
After killing Balder, Loki flees, but the gods catch up to him and punish him by chaining him to a rock until Ragnarok, which is the end of all things.
When the gods discovered that it was Loki who was responsible for Balder's death, Loki was bound beneath a serpent whose venom would drip onto Loki's flesh and cause him to writhe in pain. Here we see Sigyn lovingly capturing the venom in a bowl to prevent it from dripping onto her beloved. The image is dim, with Sigyn's brightly colored clothes and flowing white veil starkly contrasting the rocky scene behind her. Loki's crisp pale flesh also acts as a contrast for the surrounding gloom in this oil-on-canvas painting, Saigon and Loki, by Martin Eskil Wing, 1963. Wing was a Swedish painter, famous for his paintings of Norse mythology.
Br'er Rabbit is a trickster of African American mythology. He is not nearly as malicious as Loki, and in fact is most often the hero of his stories. He is, in many ways, a symbol of hope for the African American slaves who told stories about him. He outwits those physically stronger than him and more powerful, using only his brains. He often triumphs against stacked odds. This was very appealing for slaves who had very little way of resisting against their masters. One story which shows Brer Rabbit outwitting those physically stronger than him is that of Brer Fox. Brer Fox has a grudge against Brer Rabbit, and he wants to lure Brer Rabbit off, so where he can gobble him up. But Brer Rabbit knows what he's up to, so when Brer Fox shows up at his house saying, "You have to come with me, there's a party," Brer Rabbit pretends to be sick. Brer Fox says, "Oh, but I'll carry you there." Brer Rabbit agrees, but says, "You can only carry me if you're wearing a bridle and saddle." Brer Fox is so eager to get his revenge that he agrees to this. However, sneakily, Brer Rabbit puts on spurs, so when Brer Fox tries to throw off Brer Rabbit claps down the spurs and rides him all the way to Molly Cottontail's house, where he jumps down and ties Brer Fox to the fence. Then he goes into the house and tells all the ladies how Brer Fox is now his new riding horse.
As you can see, Brer Rabbit is riding Brer Fox as a horse using a bridle and saddle. Brer Rabbit is also wearing spurs, wearing clothing, and smoking a cigar, displaying the anthropomorphic tendencies seen in the Legends of Brer Rabbit. This illustration was created by Barry Moser in 1986 as part of Jump! The Adventures of Brer Rabbit. Barry Moser is an illustrator, printer, painter, printmaker, designer, author, essayist, and teacher. He studied at Auburn University, the University of Tennessee, and the University of Massachusetts. His work is displayed internationally in museums and libraries.
One of the most famous stories of Brer Rabbit is the story of Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. This story is unique amongst the stories of Brer Rabbit in that it shows Brer Rabbit being outwitted by one of the larger animals, in this case, Brer Fox. Now, Brer Fox has been trying to catch Brer Rabbit for quite some time, when at last he hits upon a scheme that he thinks might work. He makes a baby out of tar and leaves it in the street, all dressed in human clothes. Brer Rabbit, walking along the street, comes up to the Tar Baby and says, "What are you doing here?" The Tar Baby says nothing. Brer Rabbit keeps talking to the Tar Baby, but still no response. At last he says, "If you don't respond to me, I'm going to hit you." So, still no response. Brer Rabbit hits the Tar Baby, but then his hand is stuck. "How dare you hold my hand down," he says. "I'm going to hit you again." So he hits him with the other hand, and that one is stuck as well. "How dare you hold on to me," he says. So he kicks him, and when that sticks, he kicks him again. And when that sticks, he headbutts him. Then Brer Fox comes up to him and starts laughing at him, saying, "Look at you, the great trickster, now caught in my trick." This story usually ends here, but it is implied that Brer Fox eats Brer Rabbit.
In this illustration, Brer Rabbit is attempting to speak to the Tar Baby that Brer Fox created to trap him. Once again, Brer Rabbit displays anthropomorphic tendencies by wearing clothing and standing on his 9 legs. A.B. Frost is the illustrator who created this for the complete tales of Uncle Remus. A.B. Frost is a self-taught artist known as one of the great illustrators of the golden age of illustration. His work is displayed in the Library of Congress.
One of the more recent stories of Brer Rabbit is the story of Brer Rabbit and the protest meeting. At the beginning of this story, God has given all the animals tails, but the short-tailed animals are unsatisfied. Their tails are not long enough to brush off biting flies. And so they say, "This isn't fair, we want longer tails," so they agree to call a convention. However, the long tails hear about this convention and decide they don't want to lose the advantage of long tails. After all, God might decide to take pieces of their long tails and give it to the short tails. So, when the time comes for the convention, the long-tailed animals show up and take over the convention. Br'er Lion jumps up and says, I am the moderator for this meeting, and I say all of you sit down, and that includes you, Brer Rabbit. He then appoints Sis Cow as the secretary. Now, Sis Cow is obviously one of the long-tailed animals, and he overrides all protests by the short-tailed animals. Next, he motions that short-tails be not allowed to vote during this meeting. This motion is quickly passed, as the judge is very biased. Then, the long-tailed animals vote to kick the short-tailed animals out of the meeting. And again, this vote passes. As they leave, Brer Rabbit cries, "This is not fair! Our voices are not being heard." And yet, he says, this time they have gone too far. The long-tailed animals may stop us from being heard, but they cannot stop our prayers.
This picture by Troy Howell depicts Brer Lion as moderator of the meeting. Behind him is Sis Cow and Sis Br'er, who are in contention of who will be secretary. An interesting part of this illustration is the fact that Brer Lion has human hands despite being depicted with a lion's head. This characteristic is shown in many illustrations by Troy Howell for Brer Rabbit. Troy Howell is an author, illustrator, and photographer of children's books.
There are many similarities and many differences between Loki and Brer Rabbit. Obvious similarities are that they are both tricksters. Similarly, they are both kind of cowardly, especially Loki. Loki kind of runs away whenever there's conflict. Brer Rabbit definitely isn't one for a physical fight. Another common characteristic is that many of those they trick are physically stronger than them. Obviously, the biggest difference is that Loki is very often malicious. He hurts others for no other reason than for mischief. Another main difference is that while Loki is often the antagonist of his stories, Brer Rabbit is almost always the protagonist. And again, this is because of their origins. Loki is just one god among a pantheon of gods, but Brer Rabbit is the symbol of hope for the African Americans. One last difference is how they now exist in popular culture. Obviously, as a result of comic books and movies, Loki is now more popular than ever. Many people know his name. However, Brer Rabbit, while he has been in a few cartoons, has kind of somewhat faded into obscurity.
Loki first appeared in his modern form with Venus in 1949 in a Marvel comic book. Marvel has adopted Loki's legendary reputation and transformed him into a new character that has been growing in popularity for decades. Loki's popularity has recently exploded due to his role in the Marvel movies, The Avengers.
The legend of Brer Rabbit has been depicted in many children's books and cartoons, distancing itself from its violent origins. This image is from the Disney cartoon Song of the South, created in 1946. A second cartoon was created in 2006 that went straight to video. It was called The Adventures of Brer Rabbit and came from Universal Studios. Brer Rabbit has also been adapted into a play written by Gail Cornelison and was performed in Sunnyvale, California for over 20 years.